Hello friends, today I'm so excited. I am playing with some sea creatures, and these were all inspired because I got my new little mermaid series. Look at how fun those are. Don't those just look like a mermaid? I can't wait to do a mermaid tail with you guys. If you have the ocean series, you can use those, really beautiful. You can even use the holographic series and just mix it with your paints like I did in the tutorial. I took some of the MeiLiang colors and then mixed them with the holographics. So however you want to do that, I don't know if you can see the shimmer and shine in those, but this is where I took the turkey blue, which is in the MeiLiang palette, and I mixed it beforehand. What you normally will see me do, as I actually did in this one, is I paint and then I go over it with the holographics or the iridescent or metallic, whatever you're using. But you can also mix them beforehand and use them that way. And it kind of, what I like about it is in the past, I would always, if I wanted like a pastel blue or pastel version of these, I would mix them with water. If I mixed them with white, they tend to get a little chalky. But what I found is when I mixed them with, like for instance on this one, the holographics, it just gave me this beautiful, shimmery, shiny, pale pastel color version of the original. So you can decide here if you want to do like I did on this one and paint it first and then go over it with metallics, or if you want to pre-mix some colors. You know, kind of use your decision there, your uniqueness. But this is what we will be painting today. I turned them around to face the left side because it just seems like being right-handed, I don't know why. I always make my things kind of face to the left, kind of one of those weird things. So we will be painting this with some little bubbles. If you would like this drawing, I'm going to get it up on my website under May free resources. So it will be in there and you can just download that. You have to give me a little bit of time. Sometimes it takes me a bit because I work and I do these tutorials and it just tech-wise takes me a while. So I am using the Meeden too, by the way, because I might be working quite wet and wet. So I'm using the Meeden block. It's 100% cotton. And I wanted to share with you guys. So I use the Artistos quite often, as you know. When I work wet and wet, if you're really going to be working wet, these are not 100% cotton, but let me tell you guys, don't let that deter you from buying these. This is absolutely fantastic student grade paper. I use it for my everyday painting. I label all of these and then I save them. So I've got these with like ones labeled for color palettes or by the season or by the subject matter. And I save all of these. If you did want to give it away, it is perforated so you can gift them. But these are fantastic, guys. And you get 3 of these. Artisto pads. I'm not affiliated with them, by the way. You get 3 of these for like $22. In the UK, I know it's a little bit more difficult to get these, if at all. So you could go to the Meeden blocks. So this is a block of paper. It's sealed on all sides. And then when you're done painting on it, it won't warp or anything if you're using a lot of wet on wet. And then when you're done, you just slide a credit card or they give you this little tool, which one of you, thank you, Tina, sent me one because for some reason I didn't get one when I ordered these. And you just slide that in there and around and it releases the sheet of paper from the block. So these are quite handy. I actually really love painting on these. They're like a step up as far as price from these. But if you really prefer that 100% cotton, I think the Artistos are just as fabulous, but I do paint on these occasionally. So there's that. I'm going to be using my MeiLiang palette. This is the smaller palette. As you know, I love, love, love these paints. So beautiful, so creamy. Can't say enough about them. Obviously, I share them every time I paint. If you're a beginner, you don't want to have to deal with trying to mix all these colors. And I'm just flat out, I'll tell you guys, I'm a lazy painter. I just want to open my palette and I want to go. So these have all the beautiful colors. And interestingly, I have a lot of palettes from different manufacturers. And a lot of times I don't like all the colors they have, or they don't have a color I want. So I always have to maybe work from a couple palettes. This one, I'm not kidding, has every shade I could ever want, and I love all of them. So a really great palette. I think that's for about $15. Keep in mind, I will link all of these in the description below. I'll grab my links and put them in there. Today, I've also got really important beginners, your wash water and your rinse water. This just happens to be my Meeden 2-well water. I love it. It just looks rich. It looks indulgent on my desk. Not that that may matter to all of you, but I like nice aesthetics on my desk. It's quite heavy, and I have spilled way, way too many solo cups, you guys, so I like that. I'm going to be using an 8 round. Let me grab that. So I will be using that 8 round. I'm going to be coming out with my own brush line, you guys. Hopefully in August it'll be interest. You know, they want to wait and make sure it's going to be bought before they manufacture them. So I haven't, you know, I've got a link. I'll put it in the description as well. So I'm going to use my 8 long round, which is a brush I came up with based on, you know, what I've heard you guys say and what we kind of paint with a lot. I went ahead and I sprayed my paints to activate them beforehand. And I've got my tissue, I've got a little palette here to work with to mix some colors, and I'm ready to go. So let's go ahead. I'm just going into my water here. Let me grab a paper towel. Lately, I've been using these reusable paper towels, but they're all in the wash right now. So this is just a paper towel. I tend to water my brush and dab it off a lot. So that's why I keep all these paper towels kind of handy. As I said, I'm going to be working very wet and wet here. And I think I'm going to go in with these purples, my favorite, one of my favorite colors besides that beautiful rose madder or quin magenta is their violet red. I think it's, I mean, the word luscious divine is the perfect word. So I'm going to be using that. Now, if you notice, I'm going into it with the side of my brush. I'm not going in with my tip. And I'm just going to get some ready in the palette here. So it's ready to go, because when you're working wet and wet, you don't want to have to take time to stop and get color in your palette, because then your paper could dry. And then let me just rinse a little bit, and I think I'll use this fresh purple, which is right next door to that one. And there's a little bit of glitter in here, you guys, so you might see a tiny bit of that in my paints, which is fine because I'll probably add glitter afterwards. And then I'm going to use that, I always laugh when I use this, but that turkey blue. We had a whole post on this and everybody had different guesses as to what that meant. So it is turkey blue, and it's this beautiful bright turquoise that's really pretty. So I'm going to start with that, and what I will do first is I'm going to go ahead and rinse that blue out. My brush is quite wet, and I'm going to go in and pick up some of that paint, and I'm going to go ahead and start laying it in here. So it's quite wet. You'll see me use a lot of the side of my brush as well. So I'm anchoring my hand here, and I'm just going to go in with the tip of this brush. By the way, if you have your Degatos, brushes I talk about a lot. Those are perfectly fine for this. I'll show you that in just a second. I'm going to rinse my brush a bit, tap it off, and now go in, rinse it again, tap it off, and start laying in some water because I want, see that beautiful, soft, washy look? That's the look I want. Because this is an underwater little critter. So I want it to look a little washy, soft, and look how pretty that blend is. Isn't that gorgeous? That's what I want. There we go. So if you have those wonderful Degatos, which I am still using from a year ago, these again are ones I use in my student workshops. You get a whole set of these. For a beginner, you know, start with these supplies. If you're going to invest in anything, invest in your paper. And I think the Meeden is perfect. The Artisto is perfect. And then you get a whole set of these for like under $15, I believe. And they're all rounds. If you have a Princeton 8, you can definitely use that. I just happen to have grabbed my brushes, which, like I said, they aren't out. But if you have a Degato or Princeton, that's perfectly fine. And then I'm going to just keep going in here. And I'm applying just light water, but look at how beautiful that blend is. You guys, this is what I love about watercolors. I just think it's so, so pretty. So let's keep moving down his neck here and adding in. So I put about a 50-50 coat of paint, and then I'm rinsing my brush and tapping it off, and I go in, rinse and tap, and I'm softening that line, rinse and tap. And that's how I'm getting that wonderful, beautiful blend and wash there, which I just love. I might go into the top here with maybe some of that blue and let that wash in. If that's too vibrant, you can always go in with some water. There you go. Maybe let that, you can blow it around, you can kind of tilt your paper. And once this dries, this is going to be much lighter, so keeping that in mind. And I'm just going in, and again, I have about 50 water, 50 pigment in there. Now I automatically leave white space. So you'll see little white spaces here and there. That's just, you know, from painting for so many years, just kind of, I do it naturally. So rinse, blot, and go in again. I put a little fan tail here that I thought might be fun to play with. And then let's go in with maybe some of that purple. There we go. So we're making this very washy, which is, I think, you know, when I lived at the beach, I painted a ton of these little sea critters, because of course that's what people wanted in the boutiques, and if I was doing commissions, it's what they wanted. So that's what I painted. I was always asked for those. So look at this beautiful washy effect, which is perfect for a seahorse because it's in the water, right? I'm gonna rinse my brush so I can pick up some clean water here and just keep going. So when I'm applying this water too, by the way, it's just damp. It's just shiny. It's not puddles, because that's a lot harder and more challenging to control for the beginner. Even for an advanced beginner, it's a little bit harder to control. And then I go in there and just pick up a tiny bit of that paper, paint. And you can kind of switch off here, use the pink, use the purple, whatever kind of calls to you there. And I'm going to stop before I get to the end of where I applied the water, because I want that soft edge. So there we go. And then I might go in with some of that pink and just apply that around. Some down here. And now wash and rinse my brush and just keep going. Oh, I don't know why I'm always dropping my paintbrush. It like spins out of my hand. Just creating a shine. So look at that water I'm putting down. It's just shiny. It's not puddles or pooling. And then a little bit of that water or paint and going in. And I was tending to make these little things on his back a little bit darker, and then letting it kind of spread in. So I'm using very light pressure with my paintbrush up and down. So I'm only engaging the tip of my brush. And there we go. So I'm gonna rinse and wash my brush again, tap it off on my paper towel, and just keep going. Let's just do the whole tail here. Keep going. Just adding in that water. And I'm kind of liking these blooms and things in here because it's a sea animal. So it's going to have a wet look to it, right? A wet kind of washy look. Maybe mix some of that purple and pink. And I'm just letting the water kind of mix it around, because the paint's going to go exactly where I placed that water. It's not going to go outside the lines. And I'm just using that tiny tip here to move it around. Just a little bit of that purple. So very light pressure. To make it a little bit different, so I picked up some of that pink. So we get some different hues and values. And there we go. All right. So pretty. I think for his belly, I feel like I want to do like a bluish color. We could even do gold, which would be really pretty because purple and yellow are kind of contrary colors. So let's see if we can maybe do that. I'm going to grab some of my yellow paint. That is cad yellow. Really, really bright. And then let's just add a tiny touch of yellow ochre just to warm it up a bit. And again, this is about 50 paint, 50 pigment, or 50 paint, 50 water. And I'll do the same technique here. I'm going to lay down some of this paint, and then I'm going to go over it with water to get that washy effect. Like that. There we go. Now I'm not going to want to leave that yellow just right there. We're going to want to put this maybe in the crown of his head, his mouth, his fin here, because otherwise it's just going to look too contrasting. It's not going to flow with the rest of the painting. So let's get, we could actually even try a tiny bit of this blue. Ooh. Because we've got this blue in other places. And I'm going to blow on that. There we go. So now it will turn a bit green because blue and yellow make green. But I think that helps tie it and bring it together with the purple. There we go. I think that's pretty. Maybe tap in some more yellows. Just using the tip of my brush like that. And then I want to put some of this in his tail here. Now I don't want to mix too much this yellow and the purple because maybe some of you know this. Purple and yellow are opposites, so if I mix it too much, it's going to turn into mud because opposites create that kind of flat, muddy color. What I just really wanted to do was tie in that yellow with some other areas of the painting so that it ties in and just doesn't look like some yellow sticking out of nowhere. I took a little bit of blue and I'm going to add some of that into just barely the tip of my brush. And I'm painting some lines while it's wet. I might soften this edge here. There we go. So I'm quite liking that. I think I will add a tiny bit of yellow up in the top here. Yes, this is very colorful, I know, but that's kind of how I roll, folks. If you want to use other colors, just put them in your palette there. And this is that push-pull technique. So I wet my brush and now it's just damp and I'm just pushing and pulling that color out. There we go. So now this yellow is flowing throughout our painting. And that's how you want to do it with composition. I might even add just a tiny touch of yellow down in here. But again, I don't want to mix too much with that purple because you will reactivate the purple and it'll mix with the yellow. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, that's an ugly color. Maybe we could put a little bit of that yellow or blue in here. So that cad yellow is quite potent. So let's just use a tiny bit like that. And then with a damp brush, there we go. So now I've pulled our eye around, starting from here, it's going here, it's up in here, and it's coming down. We could even add in a tiny bit of that blue. There we go. That's kind of pretty. And I wanted to also mention his little eye here, but look at, before I mention the eye, well, the eye I did with pen. I used my Ohuhu marker because it's waterproof. This is that fine line Ohuhu drawing pen. I'll get my link and put it in there. This is the 0.7. So I know sometimes some of you will say, oh my gosh, I can't get that little tiny area. So I just used a black marker. But I wanted to show you, look at, this is the beauty, you guys, of watercolors. Look at these beautiful blends. Just so pretty. I love them. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm just going to darken a few areas. So now I'm going to work in some layers. So let's go in and we're going to use that push-pull technique that I share quite often. I'm going to turn my paper and I just want to go into the tips of these little, I don't know what you call these, little fringy things. Just dipping the tip of my brush in here with quite a dark value. And then what I'm going to do is wash and rinse my brush, tap it on my paper towel so it's damp, just barely damp, and I'm going to feather that in. So just the tip of my brush is touching the paint. Rinse, tap it off. There we go. So it just creates this nice smooth. Now maybe we want to make these with a little bit more blue, or maybe that violet red. We'd like those to be a little more of that color. So I go 50-50 with my paint and my water. And let's just go in here, tap in to the edges, and then I will grab, rinse my brush, real good, wash, rinse, tap it off on my paper towel so it's damp. It's like a thirsty brush. And now I go in and I feather. I'm just letting the tip of my brush pull out that paint. Wash, rinse, tap it off on my towel, and just barely tapping into the tip. Look at what a beautiful softening that creates along the edge. Love that technique. If you've followed me for a little bit, you've seen me use that. And I'm going to even do it along here, but let's keep going. So we can switch off between that purple. You could even use blue, you know, use your imagination here and use the colors that you like. But I would suggest creating your palette of colors first. So I just rinsed my brush, tap it off, and I'm going to go in just barely with the tip of my brush pulling that out. Isn't that pretty? It creates such a beautiful, beautiful effect. Same thing here. Wash, rinse, tap it off so my brush is thirsty. There we go. And look how pretty that is. Let's keep going around here. If you want, you can stop. You don't have to do this, but I think it's really pretty. And really create some drama and some beautiful striking colors. Wash, rinse my brush, tap it off on my paper towel, and go in and just feather that. There we go. Oh, so pretty. I just love the line that creates. We could go down into here and we could even add some yellow to the tips of those. So wash, rinse my brush, barely dab into that yellow, being careful because that yellow, guys, is really potent. So I'm picking up paint and then I tap, tap, tap on the edge and Let's go in. I don't want to work this too much because if it mixes with that purple, you know what we get. Wash, rinse, tap off, and now pull it out and leave it. Don't keep scrubbing your paper. So that yellow is weaving in and out of our painting. I think I'll go ahead and go in here and just create some little edges like that. Maybe these. Wash, rinse, push and pull, push into those edges. Soften that edge, and that's really, you know, my preference. I like soft edges, but look at that interest, how it just pulls you around the painting here. So lovely. Maybe we could even put a tiny bit of this violet at the edge of his little crown here. And now wash and rinse my brush, tap it off on my paper towel. You do not want that brush to have too much water in it, because if you do, that means you're putting a lot of water on your paper and it's going to spread all over your paper. There we go. I might darken this a tiny bit, so tap into that purple and let's draw a line. Wash, rinse my brush, and now I'm not going to push and pull. I'm just going to go right along the edge of that with the tip of my brush, and it just kind of softens that line. Now the last thing I want to do here, I might go in here and add a few dark edges. We'll see. But what I want to do here, or in these little lines, is just create, so I'm some distinction between the different little segments on him. So I lightened my purple, pink, my violet, red, and my fresh purple, and I'm tapping off to get the excess, and I'm just going to go in, got a little fur there, and color in some of these, maybe some coming from that side. Just defining some of those. And if you are like me and you don't like that hard edge, you just go along those edges with a damp brush and soften them a bit. I have hardly any water at all on my brush, because if I have too much, it's going to really spread. Tap, tap, tap. I don't want too much water on there. So this is definitely a wet on wet technique, but I'm just kind of adding some interest here. Now this is wet on dry. And then rinse and wash my brush, tap it off on the paper towel, and now I can go along those edges and soften that. There we go. So it's just creating some fun interest here. You could do it on his little front body if you wanted. Let's see. Use some of that yellow. Like that, and it just kind of grabs your attention. And I'm going to actually leave those kind of hard edged. And there you go. I think we're almost about done. I mean, you could really go in here and do whatever you like. I kind of like it being left like this. I feel like I might want to add a tiny bit of blue there. And of course, those wonderful metallics we'll add in. So I'm going to just outline this, but I don't want a full outline because that's too rigid for me. So I'm just going to outline a couple areas here and there, and then I'll use that push-pull technique again. Just touching in to the edges. And softening that little line. Picking up that. There we go. Feel like I want that to be a little softer. So we just added a little distinction. I didn't want to do too much because I'm going to go in with these MAB Metallics here. Let me grab, where is it? Hold on, guys. Okay, well, I don't see it, but I wanted to grab my little swatch sheet. 1 second. Sorry, I don't know how to edit, you guys. So I can't edit this out. And I don't see what I'm looking for. Okay. One of these days I'll learn to edit, you guys. But anyway, I want to just show you some of these metallics on a little swatch sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brush again, and I think what I'll use here is maybe these. I'm going to try this purple. So I had already sprayed these so that they're ready to go. And you could swatch these out on a sheet just to see what colors they are. So I quite like that because it has some purples in it. It has some blues in it. So this one is from, let's see, what series? That is the Ocean series, which is perfect. So I'm going to apply some of that over the purples, kind of like I did here. And it gave this really pretty iridescent look. So just taking the side of my brush and adding it in. And I love adding in things that whoever is looking at this is going to have to go, is that something shiny I see? So I don't like to overdo it too much. I want it to kind of be like it catches your eye and you're not quite sure what you're seeing. Now, sometimes I do have to admit I get a little crazy with the metallics, guys. So here's the blue. And I might just use the tip of my brush and create. Now you could have really just left this just how it was already. You don't have to go in and add these metallics and things. That's kind of up to you. I can't stand it. I gotta add metallics, especially when I'm doing something like this that's under the sea and kind of shiny. So there you go. You could even add in more here. I'm not sure what this yellow, let's see what that might look like. Oh, that's pretty. I'm just using the side of my brush to apply that. Ooh, that's really pretty. That yellow is very, very light. I might add some up here. That's really pretty. I think that could also be pretty on his tail. And it just gives that little glimpse of, ooh, I think something's there. What you could do too, I like giving you all these options. What you also could do is use your white gouache. I recently found this on Amazon, and it's Copic Opaque White, and it has a really fine brush. But you know what, you guys, use white paint, use white pen, gel pen, use if you have white gouache. But I thought this was kind of handy. So look at that little fine tip on there. So I've been having fun there. And what you could do is just giving you all the options here. And you know what? You may have just been fine with how it was a few minutes ago. But I think it's really fun playing with all these mixed medias and experimenting. I think that's kind of fun and just adds a little bit of something to it. I want to go in and just play with the little circle around his eye. And let's see, I'm just gonna barely put in a pink tint, not around the whole thing. So I'm leaving some white in there. But look at how pretty, just that little touch of white. You could even use pen and ink in this. Kind of play with what you want to play. Now the other fun thing I like doing is I'm going to go into, let me see, which series is this? This is the Mermaid series. Let's play with some of these colors. That's pretty. Let's splatter some of that. Ooh, yeah, that is really pretty. My goal here is I want to kind of create maybe what looks like little bubbles. And then I think I'll even use some of that purple that we used. And let's splatter some of that. Need a little bit more. Sometimes I notice the metallics are a little bit harder to spread, but look at how pretty. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and make some bubbles. So let's use one of our paints. Doesn't really, use whatever one you're kind of called to. And let's take the tip of our brush and just add in some little bubbles. I don't know if you can see that bubble. It's awfully light. What a beautiful color that is. It's like a princess pink. One time I did this commission, and for a house in Carlsbad, and I did all of these seahorses and clownfish, and I thought it was so cute. Her husband loved it. And he was like, that is so cool. I ended up doing a lot more in their house. They had a designer and she hired me to do all kinds of fun stuff. But this was for her granddaughter's room. So I'm going in right now and I'm just using the tip of my brush and I'm adding what I hope looks like some little bubbles. So I've got some purples. I'm trying not to stick my arm in that. So I'm going to turn my paper a little bit, but can you see the little bubbles? Aren't those fun? Do you guys just love watercolors as much as me? I get so excited, you guys. It's like sometimes I wake up in the morning and I know this is like what I do for work, and the tech stuff, I'm not going to kid you, I despise, and I can't wait till one day I can afford to hire somebody to help me. But when I think about painting, it keeps me up at night in a good way. So I'm just continuing to go around and add in some little bubbles here and there. Look how cute. This would be so cute in a little kid's room. And I feel like I almost want to stop here because you know me, I can very much overdo, especially when I'm playing with those metallics. I almost want to add some of that white in here. We might as well, right? So I love this little, I don't even know how I found this. Copic markers. Or not Copic markers. I think that's actually when I found it. But I like it because it's got a really fine point. And the white too, I had trouble finding white that stayed white after I painted it, and this worked really good. So there you go. Well, I hope this was fun for you guys. I will give you, again, the free drawing will be in my website under debbiewalkerart.com, and it'll be under free resources, and I do resources each month, so you'll find it under there. And then I will also share it in the post, which I always do that. I try to always do that. And I think I'll even go ahead and make a little kit out of this for you. And the kit, you're going to get the drawing, the swatch, a few little tips and guidelines to go with the tutorial. They're all digital download. They're $2.50. So they're basically just, if you want to contribute a little bit of money, $2.50 on Etsy, and you can download all those sheets. But if you want the drawing, email me or look for it on my website. And please, please check out my brush line that's coming. This is actually the color, our favorite color. I'm working on the box design right now. And hopefully, if there's enough interest, they will release these the 1st of summer. And I can't wait. Thank you so much. I'll also look at these beautiful colors. I thought I was a huge fan of their mirror series, and then I found these, and I am absolutely loving them. So this is the Mermaid, the Ocean series, and these are the holographic, which is how I made all of these colors by mixing them together. So lots of options there for you guys, and this was so much fun. I hope you join me. Thank you to all of you for being here. You keep me going. You're so much fun. And I think that's it. All right, everybody, I will talk to you soon. And most of all, just have fun, play, discover, experiment. And I will see you all again soon. Bye.